Welcome to the 2026 Summertime Security Summit. This special episode is your ultimate digital nomad tech-to-go survival guide. By the time you finish this video, you won't just be safer, you will be virtually unhackable. And I personally guarantee people will find you more attractive. Today, we are diving deep into the tech trenches. We are locking things down with unbreakable immutability. We are throwing up the ultimate shields with hardware keys, and we are going to absolutely annihilate those dreaded repository worms. So grab your digital sunscreen, double check your perimeter, and let's initialize this party. Linux has always been a fortress. Granular permissions, open source eyes everywhere, and rock solid architecture mean most malware dies at the gate. But here's the scary part. What if you accidentally ran something nasty with root privileges? Or a system update goes sideways and wrecks your desktop? On a traditional distro, you're staring at a brick setup and a long, painful recovery night. Today, a new generation of Linux distros flipping the script, literally building an unbreakable software shield around your machine. These are immutable distribution, and once you understand them, you'll never want to go back, and chances are you might already be using one without even knowing it. Today I'm breaking down exactly how they work, why they make malware almost irrelevant, and the 3 best ones you can install right now, plus the gaming device millions of you already own that's running it. First, trust in the Steam Deck. Steam Deck boot. If you own a Steam Deck, surprise, you've already been living in the immutable future. Valve doesn't update Steam OS like normal Linux. They don't patch hundreds of files on your live system. Instead, they pull off an illusion. They swap out the entire operating system image in the background. Tweak too much in desktop mode, install a sketchy mod, run something that tries to go nuclear on your root directories, just reboot. The mess disappears. Your clean baseline system comes back like nothing ever happened. That's the magic of immutability, and it's coming to the desktop in a big way. Okay, so how does this actually work? It's simpler than it sounds, and we're gonna break it down in just a couple steps. Layer 1, the write protected core. The entire base operating system is locked down and read only. Malware, bad updates, and even you on a bad day, none of you can touch it. Layer 2, the writable overlay. Your personal files, settings, and customizations live on a separate layer on top. You get full freedom without risking the foundation. Layer 3, containerized app. Forget traditional package managers that scatter files everywhere. Here, everything runs in isolated container, Flatpak, AppImage, Podman, DistroBox, etc. If an app gets compromised, it's trapped in its own little prison. It can't touch your real system. Browsers have been trying to pull this off for a while with browser sandboxing. Immutable distributions take that to 11, and every app is containerized in the sandbox. When you put all 3 of those layers together, you get a rock solid setup that's digitally bulletproof. If an update ever goes wrong, you don't get a black screen, you just roll back to a previous perfect image from the boot menu. It's like having system restore on steroids. If you've ever used other Linux distros in the past, you've probably run into a situation where apt-get bricks your system, or some extension wrecks your graphics driver and now your system won't boot. Well, this immutable setup stops all that. Never again will you have to pull out your hard drive and plug it into a working system via USB, or boot a recovery USB and hope the PE gods are merciful. Here's where you have to make the choice. Assuming you've made the smart decision to go immutable, then what? What distro do you pick? Well, that's what we're going to talk about next. Besides your Steam Deck, there are plenty of desktop daily driver distros to pick from. I've set up 3 of the highest rated, most supported, and strongest contenders for your next Nix box. Distro 1, Aurora, the seamless daily driver. Built on Fedora's Silver Blue with a stunning KDE Plasma desktop, this is the one you can hand to your friend who just wants it to work. Updates happen silently in the background. Flatpaks and containers stay current, no interruption. It even comes with DistroBox, a slick GUI called Distro Shelf, so you can spin up other distros in containers for testing. Completely risk-free. Daily driving has never felt this safe, look this beautiful. Speaking of beautiful, check out their website. Absolutely stunning workmanship done on that. Of the 3 distros covered in this video, their website is either number 1 or number 2. Also, check out their documentation website. Something often overlooked in open source projects, it's also an absolute banger. Like all of my ex-wives, easy to use and damn nice to look at. Unlike my ex-wife, it's not looking for money, which is nice. special thanks to 9to5 Linux for the footage of Aurora. Alright, distro 2, Vanilla OS, the flexible powerhouse. One of the most exciting immutable distros, and it's built on Debian, a personal favorite of mine. Version 2, Orchid, uses their custom AB root system, 2 root file system. Updates happen on the inactive one, and then you reboot into perfection. Your current session stays untouched until you're ready. The real flex, it's a universal app monster. Flatpaks, native Debian packages, Arch packages, even Android apps through Waydroid, all perfectly isolated. Maximum flexibility, zero compromise on security. Again, a special thanks to Switch to Linux for the Vanilla OS footage. Now let's take a quick peek at their website, and wowza, this is another gorgeous website. Seriously, both them and Aurora really hit it out of the park on their homepages. Really well done, and it helps to immediately let you know that they know what they're doing and that they're putting in maximum effort. Their documentation page too is also impeccable. Once again, very easy to use, informative, and no complaints. Alright, distro 3, NixOS, the declarative Fort Knox. This is sort of the final boss of immutability. This one is built different. It throws out the traditional Linux file system hierarchy. Everything lives in the legendary /nix store. Your entire system, every pack, every setting, every permission is declared in a single text file, configuration.nix. Mess something up, malware changes a setting, just rebuild or roll back to any previous generation instantly. It's reproducible, version controlled, and absolutely bulletproof. If you love control and hate chaos, NixOS your bliss. If you're looking to get your immutability on many systems, this is the way to go. No more having to muck about in the settings after each setup to get it just the way you like it. Once you've got your configuration file dialed in, that's it. You can clone that to as many systems as you want. A huge shout out to one of my favorite channels, Vim Joyer, whom I got a little bit of the NixOS footage from. Finally, let's take a peek at their website. In my humble opinion, this pairs really well with what NixOS is. It's not the prettiest girl at the dance, but it will drop its config files on the first day. So if that's your thing, NixOS is probably what you're going to want to dance with. Their documentation pages are really well done. Of the three, I think they have the most unique and interesting layout, so kudos to them on that. Again, NixOS is all about configurability. From the jump, you have control over everything, and you can fine-tune this distro until your fingers bleed. And that's where this documentation website really comes in handy, because diving through these config files, you're gonna need to look into the docs, and so having a easy and quick way to get that information is amazing. They really nailed it on that. So let's talk about the conclusion, the security verdict on this. Immutable distros are changing the game. Read-only core plus writable overlay plus heavy containerization equals a defensive shield traditional Linux simply can't match. Malware gets neutralized, updates become safe, and breaking your system become nearly impossible. You want a polished daily driver? I would say go with Aurora. You want maximum flexibility? Probably Vanilla OS. You want God mode control? NixOS. No matter what you pick, the peace of mind is addictive. Again, a big thanks to 9to5 Linux, Switch to Linux, and Vim Joyer for all the amazing footage. Please drop a comment. Are you interested in making the switch to an immutable distro, or are you staying traditional for now? Now that we've got through part 1 of the Summertime Security Summit, let's move on to part 2. The hardware shield, your digital skeleton key. Open every door for yourself and slam the door on hackers. Summertime travel season is here, and so are the risks. You're on a beach, your phone gets pickpocketed, or you're in a remote village with zero cell service. Suddenly that just use SMS 2-factor authentication plan falls apart completely. Even worse, you connect to that dodgy hotel Wi-Fi and some attacker is quietly harvesting your passwords in seconds. That's exactly why you need a physical shield, a hardware security key. Whether it's a Yubikey or my personal favorite, the uTrust FIDO, these little devices are nearly impossible to phish. Because even if someone steals every password you own, they still don't have the physical key that you still have in your pocket, on your keychain, or just tucked away wherever. These things are so easy, put in your wallet, on your keychain, whatever. They're incredibly durable, and they beat out having passwords or relying solely on password management. Here's how it works. When you log into Google, GitHub, Microsoft, or any FIDO2 compatible service, the site challenges your key. You plug it in or tap it on NFC via your phone, and you have to physically touch that button. So even if someone has your password, even if someone steals your password, because they don't have that physical key, they can't get in to the site. That single tap proves you're really you where you say you are. No codes to intercept, No authenticator apps that can be tripped. Just cryptographic proof backed by hardware. Now, these keys come in a few different varieties. You can get a USB-C one, you can get an NFC one, or you can get a Bluetooth compatible one. It's going to be life-changing. You're going to have a sense of security that you've never had before from even traditional two-factor authentication. This is a step above that. There's a great link in the description to the Yubikey site. So you can go to the Yubikey website that I've linked in the description. They have this great quiz that you can take that sort of will help you identify which type of key is best going to fit your use case. There's also another website that I've linked that does a great write-up if you really want to go in depth on how these hardware keys are set up and how they work. For now, I think we've done enough to say that you just need to get one. It doesn't matter what kind. Just get one. All right, that covers the second half, the hardware portion of the Summertime Security Summit. So now let's move on to the third and final chapter of the Summertime Security Summit, the Developer Shield. Part 3, the Developer Shield. Shielding the source with cryptographic commit signing. Now that you and I are on the same metaphorical page in terms of hardware keys, let's take things a step further. These keys aren't just for logging into your email. If you're a developer or open source contributor, these keys have the power to save your job, and they will certainly make your fellow contributors jealous of your cool green badge. These keys have one more trick. You can store your GPG and SSH keys directly on a hardware security key. The private keys never leave the device. They're protected by the same tamper-resistant chip used in passports and credit cards. Storing those keys becomes incredibly useful when using Git to commit your code to a repository. You can configure Git so that every single commit you make requires a physical tap on your hardware key. The key cryptographically signs the commit, and when it hits GitHub, you get that beautiful bright green verified badge. It's not just security theater, it's mathematical proof that you wrote that code. No one else, not a compromised account, not an imposter, you. As part of the Summertime Security Summit, I want to highlight a couple recent attacks. These are a new kind of attack that targets code repositories specifically. The two I want to mention are the Megalodon campaign and the Shai-Hulud worm. Let's go with number 1, the Megalodon campaign, the automated flood. The Megalodon campaign is a textbook example of a direct poisoned pipeline execution attack, or DPPE attack. In May 2026, it executed an incredibly aggressive blitz, pushing over 5,700 malicious commits to more than 5,500 GitHub repositories in a single 6-hour window. How it works. Megalodon targets public GitHub repositories by submitting fake automated commits or pull requests that sneak a malicious YAML file into the repository's GitHub workflow directory. The moment a repository owner unknowingly merges this commit, GitHub's actions automatically trigger the newly injected malicious workflow, and then it's all over. Git allows anyone to change their local configuration to use any name and email address. It does that so it's easy to set up your account and push commits. Megalodon takes advantage of that, spoofs standard automation emails like cibot@automated.dev, and it uses highly convincing mundane commit messages like add optimized setup, update CI/CD pipeline, correct build workflow. Right? And then it uses anomalous metadata to look like an automated system archiving or syncing. In a little bit, we're going to talk about the TANstack scanner, which is going to help you identify if your repository has been compromised. But first, let's talk about the Shai-Hulud worm, the self-replicating sandworm. Attributed to a threat group known as Team PCP, Shai-Hulud and its recent 2026 variant Miasma are highly dangerous, autonomous, self-replicating worms targeting package registries such as NPM and PyPy and developer environments. The worm hides inside Trojanized versions of open source packages or injected GitHub setup.js files. Once running on a developer's machine or in a continuous integration pipeline, it acts as a deep credential harvester, scraping memory, cloud configurations, and environmental variables for Kubernetes, Azure, AWS, GCP, and GitHub tokens. Unlike Megalodon, which is driven by an attacker's central server, Shai-Hulud is a worm. It takes the stolen NPM or GitHub tokens it just harvested and immediately uses them to autonomously push infected updates to every other repository or package the victim has write access to. This creates an exponential runaway chain reaction. Shai-Hulud explicitly targets AI coding agents and IDE extensions. When an AI tool or developer opens an infected repository to analyze it, the worm executes silently in the background. So, how does cryptographic signing protect you from this? Git email addresses are like return addresses written on an envelope. Anyone can write any name they want on an envelope. Cryptographic signing is like a wax seal. So, by having a cryptographic key, a Yubikey, whatever, you create a mathematical boundary that these worms are incapable of crossing. This is really one of the only ways to securely protect yourself and your repository from these kind of attacks. Now, if you are really worried about your repository already being compromised, there is a tool I mentioned earlier called the Tan Stack Scanner. This tool goes full sci-fi on your codebase. It sweeps your continuous integration pipelines, hunts down sneaky base64 payloads, and slams the door on rogue workflows like sysdiag and optimized build before they can exfiltrate your secrets. Do not let your hard work get eaten alive by malware. Open up that terminal, arm your security protocols, and let's vaporize some worms. Awesome. Well, hopefully you found this informative and enlightening. This certainly is a new attack vector that's only going to become more proliferated as time goes on. And that's about it for the third part of the Summertime Security Summit. Now let's go to the conclusion. All right, the Summertime Security Summit summary, the chain of trust. When you layer an immutable OS core with the hardware-backed cryptographic keys and strict upstream commit enforcement, you aren't just stacking random security tools. You are forging an unbreakable end-to-end chain of trust. Separately, these are just solid defensive practices, but combined, it's a complete defense in-depth multiplier. Your local box is hardened against persistence, your authentication is practically unphishable, and every single line of code you push to the world is cryptographically bound to your actual physical identity. If you're old enough to remember the early days of ransomware, when malware evolved from annoying adware pop-ups to full-blown digital extortion that locked down entire enterprises, you know exactly how fast these threats snowball. You can bet your session tokens that autonomous repository worms and identity spoofing supply chain attacks are the next major paradigm shift. And with the absolute explosion of vibe coders copy-pasting AI-generated boilerplate and raw-dogging open-source dependencies without a second thought, the software supply chain is a massive, glowing, neon target that says, "Come get me." The blast radius is expanding and the infection rate is about to hit warp speed. Alright, hopefully you enjoyed this video. It's my first attempt at using a new method for writing and recording. My iPad did all the writing, typing, and telepromptering while I recorded the audio on my Pixel phone. My goal is to be able to write, record, edit, and publish without needing a massive amount of hardware, gaming chair, and dual screen setup. So please let me know in the comments what you thought of the quality. Unless you hated it. Okay, even if you hated it. All engagement is good engagement, right? Right? Alright, anyways, if you want to keep your repos clean and your private keys safe, tippity tap that like button, hit subscribe for more deep dives into the future of Linux and zero trust engineering, and I'll see you in the next build. Peace.